Hey, good morning. It's Rob Woodall. I want to talk a little bit about the FairTax today. It's April 15th here in Washington. I've been on the floor this morning voting on the budgets. I've been voting no on budgets that we're going to tax more and spend more. I've been voting yes on budgets that we're going to either tax the same or tax less and spend less. And those are big picture items. That is absolutely where we have to take the conversation in America to get the economy back on track. But what's so frustrating to me is that we haven't been able to just focus on H.R. 25. The FairTax is the only bill in this Congress that completely eliminates the IRS. It's the only bill in this Congress that completely eliminates the personal income tax and the corporate income tax, which is what so many folks are focused on here today on April 15th. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Rob, I thought I read in the paper somewhere where I actually have until Monday, the 18th, to file my taxes. That's true this year because of Emancipation Day and how it falls. You do have until Monday. But if you didn't file today, it means you're worrying about it all weekend long, and it doesn't have to be that way. Let me tell you what we've been doing to move the FairTax forward. A couple of exciting things going on right now. Just yesterday, we had a FairTax briefing here on Capitol Hill, where we flew in some FairTax experts, where we invited congressional staff and members in from across the Hill to come in and talk about the FairTax, to understand the FairTax better if they didn't already. We had two good things happen. Number one, we had folks who were already supportive of the FairTax, but wanted more information so they could go out and sell it better. And they sent staff over and they came by. And we also had folks who wanted to know more about the FairTax. And for the first time, in the time that I've been pushing the FairTax, we had a big group of Democrats come by. Not a small group, but a big group. And that's important because this has never been a Republican issue. It's never been a Democratic issue. It's never been a partisan issue. It's an American issue about how to get the economy back on track. And that's why I'm in favor of the FairTax. I know that's why you are too. We had the President who introduced his budget in February. And as you remember, his budget did nothing to either reform the tax code or to reform our entitlement programs, which are headed towards bankruptcy and driving this country into bankruptcy as well. You know, the FairTax is the only tax bill out there that deals with the payroll tax, that tax that funds the Social Security system, that funds the Medicare system. And you've heard me say it before, if we grow the economy with the FairTax, we grow tax receipts with the FairTax, and so we grow the trust funds for Medicare and Medicaid with the FairTax. Now, the budget that I'm voting on today is going to take some steps to reform those programs for folks under the age of 55, but we still need to build revenues. Right now, taxes in this country represent about 14%, 14.5% of our gross domestic product. Historically, they're about 18%. The reason they're low is not because we've had tax cuts, but because the economy is not producing, because jobs are not growing, because businesses are not making profits, because individuals are not seeing raises in their salaries. You know the FairTax does that. We have an opportunity to move the corporate income tax in this country from the highest in the world to the lowest in the world. What do you think that does for job creation? What do you think that does for multinational companies trying to decide where to build their next plant? It means they build them here. I have talked to CEOs throughout this year who say, Rob, I'm trying to move my business overseas because America is too expensive to do business in. Folks, we can change that, and the FairTax does change that. If you want a jobs program, if you want a program that rebuilds the American economy on the risk-taking entrepreneurism on which it was founded, if you want a program that makes April 15th just another spring day, you want the FairTax. I told you I would drive the FairTax forward if I were elected to Congress. We are doing just that. And I want to leave you with this. I sit on the Budget Committee. We passed out of committee this budget that we're going to vote on the floor. For the first time in 10 years, we now have a mention of the FairTax in the budget of the United States Congress, that budget that I expect to pass this afternoon. Now, the Budget Committee does not have control over tax legislation. It only has control over the vision of this Congress for the future of the budget of this country, 10-year plan. In the tax section of that budget, which projects lower tax rates, broader bases, again, for the first time since 2000, we have a mention of the fair tax and an encouragement for the Congress to drive in that direction to bring the jobs and economic growth that we all want and need in this country. If you have any questions about the fair tax, you can always find me. You can always see our webpage at woodall.house.gov. You can always seek answers at fairtax.org. But I'll tell you this, the fair tax is only growing because of your commitment, one person at the time, one family at the time, to driving this idea forward. I'm grateful to you. It's going to save this country, and together we can make it a reality. Thank you so much.